What's up, guys? I'm back from SEMA and it's fall. It's pretty cold out here. It's about 35 degrees. So we're gonna go over a few different things and we're gonna talk about a few different cars. But before we do, I wanna make sure I describe what I'm trying to work on in the next couple of videos. I wanna make sure that I can talk about videos that are specifically or more geared towards the home user, the weekend warrior, if you were, the guy that's working in his driveway, and then a couple of videos about professional detailing or some tips that I can give. So I just want to be more clear about that. So hopefully, as you see the videos progress, I'm going to try to do that a little bit more and more. And I want to give some thanks to my buddy Jason Rose from McGuire's to help me kind of conceptualize that. So hopefully I can be a bit more succinct and clear in the video. So today we're going to be talking about more of a detailing business aspect, and I want to talk to you from that perspective. Doesn't mean if you're not in the business you shouldn't watch it. It's just I'm going to try to gear the information towards that. Moving on. This is a 2000 Ferrari 550 Maranello. Beautiful, blue, amazing GT car, front engine. The rest, you guys totally know. This thing's amazing. Now, this is a friend's car, not my normal customer's car. So he's actually a neighbor, and he was nice enough to bring his car here so I can work in one location and sort of stay warm, if you will, and have a place to go inside. So today's topic that we're going to talk about is how do you not only assess the vehicle, we've talked about that a few times, and go through the patterns and the steps. Of course I have to wash the car. I'll try to get a little bit on video, but that's not the focus for today. We'll start with the wheels, wash it down. We're going to clay it real quick because it is a little rough. But this car needs a ton of paint correction. Now, speaking with the customer, this new neighbor, nice man, he's said, hey, I want you to do a bunch of work to it. I want you to make it look great, but I'm not gonna, I don't want it there for days and days and days and weeks, and I don't want you to go crazy with the paint correction. Just make it look better. If you got to do some polishing, great, but don't go crazy like you do on the F40s and the 288 GTOs and all the other cars behind me. So that the point of the episode today is I'm going to show you a bunch of steps that we're going to go through, but more importantly, how do you stay profitable in this whole process? And that is important. Profit is not a bad thing. You need to keep being able to survive and be able to put fuel in your truck and be able to pay for your mortgage and provide for your family and things of that nature. So I'm gearing a little bit more towards the business guy, and I want you to just be cognizant. We're going to go through the steps, and we're going to, polishing is a great thing, so I'm going to show more and more polishing because everybody loves to learn that. But how do you polish and stay profitable? That's going to be the key. And the key to this whole video is understanding your customer. All right, now that we rinsed it down, the next step you're thinking is, Larry's going to break out his foam gun, and I'm not going to do that today for a couple of specific reasons, and I wanted to get into the detailer's mind as to the steps we're going to do to try to be very safe to the car, but at the same time profitable. First thing is, this car wasn't all that dirty. I mean, it was dirty, no doubt about it, but it wasn't caked on with tons and tons of gunk, and you absolutely must have to do that. So that was a little bar that I said, okay, it's not that dirty. I can put that in my mind. Okay, maybe I'll use the foam gun, maybe I won't. The next little layer down where I said, okay, what's the determining factor is the paint already in great condition? And if so, am I going to need to polish it? And the answers to number 2 and 3 is the paint's really not in that great a condition, so it's not like it's absolutely perfect and you adjust on it and then you need to wash it. If you were to wash it improperly, then bang, you're gonna see a big streak. Right here, I'll pull the camera in, there's swirls and streaks and all kinds of funky stuff on this car on there already. And the third reason is we are going to in fact polish it. The level of polishing is going to be a different story. Again, we're going to have to talk about that a little bit. It's not going to be a full restoration for days and blah, 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 but there is going to be some sort of polishing to it. So the little bit of damage that I could potentially do, I'm still using the 2-bucket system. I'm just not using the 2-bucket system with the foam gun. So the little bit of damage that could potentially happen, which it's not, I'm going to be able to get that out in 2 seconds with the restoration. So it's kind of, you don't want to do more than is absolutely necessary in certain cases. And you guys know me by now and watching all my videos. I'm not going to skimp on a few pennies, just like the products that I make and just like the things. I'm not going to skimp on a few dollars if it means putting something in jeopardy. But there's also a factor where you need to be smart, where I'm not going to just waste money either. In this case, in this particular case, I don't think you need to use a foam gun. So I'm going to wash it down, 2-bucket system, dry it off, hydrate the whole 9 yards. It'll be stripped down because believe me, there's no wax on this car. It hasn't been waxed in light years. We're going to pull it inside and then we're going to polish it, and we'll talk a little bit more. So food for thought. Now that we washed the car and we rinsed it down, it's still wet. Next step would be to hydrate it, right? But the car, you hear that? Has a little bit of contaminants on it, again, because it hasn't been maintained on a regular basis. And sticking with our theme of how to do an amazing job, make the customer happy, but at the same time stay profitable, there's a few things that you can do with regards to products that can save you a little bit. And the first thing you might be thinking is, hey, buy more of this and do that. I'm actually saying the complete opposite of that. Complete opposite is normal thinking would, hey, let's dry the car down and then go over with a piece of clay or a towel or whatever your device is, but for now I'm going to use a piece of clay with a clay lubrication and go over it. Clay lubrication, fantastic stuff. And the reason why there might be a little bit of confusion here is I don't think it's absolutely necessary, especially when you have to do the entire car like this. Leave it wet and then take your wash mitt that you use, clean it out, see it's got fresh soap in there, and with a clay bar, usually speaking, this is a 200 gram, you cut it in half, and you're perfectly fine. So save your clay for something else. And we talked about it in a few other episodes, so check it out on the channel, of how to degrade these down, where when I'm done with this, I'll use it for the wheels, and I'll use it for the undercarriage, and when I'm done with that, then I'll throw it away. But getting back to saving money, traditional thinking would be to use a clay lubrication. You don't necessarily need to do that. Now, a lot of people say, well, if you use spray wax or if you use soap, you're going to damage the clay itself. And the answer to that is, you're right. But the difference here is if you use it on a regular basis and leave it in the sitting spray wax or soap, then you might have a chance of degrading it. It all comes down to the chemistry of it and whatever the emulsification or the lubrication used to apply to the clay. Sometimes it'll become very like greasy. You can kind of like, it just falls apart in your hand. So the fact that people would say that is correct, but it's not always something that you should keep in mind. What I do when I'm done with it is I rinse this off in water, and I knead it a little bit, rinse it off in water. Totally good. So you've just bypassed that little bit of, scare that's out there. It's not. So the point of the story is use your soap, just like this. I put it in my left hand usually. I'm a little awkward because I'm on camera now, but I'll use it like this, get some soap suds in there. Remember, this is clean now, clean. And you can come in and just use the lubrication from the wash. Now, what is this doing? What it's doing is, look at all the gunk. I don't know if I can get that on camera, but what it's doing is it's picking off all the, everybody knows the clay, it's picking off all the gunk and the contamination out of the paint. The point of the story is I just saved myself a whole boatload of buying spray wax or spray lube or clay lubrication when I could just use the soap. So anyways, staying in our focus of how to do a great job and still be profitable. That's the next step. All right, so we've pulled the car inside and we're going to do a little paint correction. What I've said before is this particular customer, after speaking with him, relayed to me that he doesn't want 100-point detail. He doesn't want me to spend a whole lot of time. I'm not going to be wet sanding. So the point of this video is I'm going to show you some steps. We're going to put a piece of tape down here. We're going to do the 50-50. And I'm going to show you specifically how that's done. But that's kind of the less important part of this particular video. It's communicating with your customer and understanding. Now, the part that I want to try to verbalize the best I can is earlier in my career, I would take this piece of information, meaning the customer saying, hey, I want the car to look great, spend some time on it, here's the budget, and go there. But I have another package that's a couple $1,000 and it takes a couple days and do all these crazy things. And in the beginning of my career, I would sort of compromise and do, so if the customer wanted the smaller package, I'd still even do the bigger package. And I don't want to go so far as to say that hurt my career. It didn't. It showed people that I really love what I do, but it probably hurt other relationships, meaning I could have spent more time with my wife. I could have spent more time at home or whatever, because I took more time. I spent 2-3 hours on a car that I wasn't necessarily getting compensated for. So I don't want to persuade you and say, hey, don't do that, because I did it. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of heads up and say, here are the facts of the situation, and you make a decision for yourself. So as of now, in the state of my career now, is if a customer wants what they want, I do exactly what they want, and I make that very clear. I have a conversation with them on the phone via email, and I take pictures, and I'm sure he'll be watching the video. So it's very explicit, and I don't do more or less, because one of the other little factors that I've learned over a lot of time doing this is when you try to do more than what the job consists of, a lot of times, at least for me, a lot of times problems exist because maybe I go like, I know I'm not getting compensated for this, and I know I got to go home and spend some time with my wife, and I know, and so subconsciously you might rush a little bit. So there's all these little factors that I'm trying to get a relay in this longer video here, but do the job that you're getting paid for, do it well, and make sure the communication is there, and make a decision for yourself if you want to go overboard. Again, I did that early in my career. I think it was probably a good idea, maybe not, I don't know, but now that I look back, I am very strategic about everything that I do. So, moving on. We're going to do a very quick paint correction on this, but it's not going to be wet sanding. I'm not going to be going multiple, so I'm going to do 1, 2 passes. It's going to look great. Is it going to be 100%? No. Is it going to be 90%? Probably not. It's going to be somewhere between 80, 85, because that's what he wants, and I'm prepared to do that. So let's go through a couple of steps. Before we correct the 550 Maranello, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the pads, and more specifically the pile height and how that transfers. But you may have noticed I've switched cars just because I wanted to change it up a little bit, and I love sitting next to the F40. The coolness just hopefully is oozing over me, and I can walk around the rest of the day knowing that I've got to see a beautiful car. Anyways, I'm doing a shameless plug here. Next week or the week after, I'm going to do a washing technique on this, but in winter. So how to wash your car in winter, and obviously what better car to do it than the F40. Anyways, let's move on. It's just fun to look at. We're going to talk about pads. Now, this last week or the week before that, I went to SEMA, and I met up with my buddy Todd Helm, who's wildly intelligent and an amazing detailer, and I hope to be as good as he is someday. But he relayed a message to me, and I said, you know what, I totally get this, and I wanted to transfer it over to you guys. And the message is this. When we're talking about microfiber cutting pads, now let me back up real quick. I use cutting pads, I use microfiber to cut. Sorry, I instinctively say cutting pads, but I use microfiber to cut. I use foam pads to polish. Microfiber, cut, foam to polish, and that's a general rule. So going into the microfiber, meaning we're going to use it right now, it's really dependent on the pile height. We're not going to talk so much about the backing. So this is a little bit thicker, this is medium, and this is thin, and is it, and how dense is it, and things of that nature. What I want to talk about is the pile height. So for me, the first one off the bat, what does that say there? That says ammo, right? And I'd be sitting here pitching my own pads and things of that nature because it's got my name. I now have a couple thousand of these pads that are sitting in my garage that are something that I would not want to sell or use, and quite frankly, I'm not going to use them anymore. And the reason why is that the fibers in the actual pads, and I'll take a close-up shot of these, curled over, so they weren't very strong. They're quite frankly, they were just too small, and something happened in the manufacturing process, and it's just not going to work. Then there's these other pads, and these are all great companies, and again, this is my opinion that I've seen. These particular fibers are a little bit too high for me, and I'm going to show you an example. I got these sticks next to me to kind of give you a little bit more of a visual. So they're too high. When they're too high, the length, and this is an engineering sort of thing or a physics thing if you were, the length is so big that when you put any pressure on it, it kind of falls over. And this one here, when the length is so short, it can't really do a whole lot. And then this one here is the Meguiar's microfiber cutting pad, and the fibers themselves are, in my opinion, are a medium height or are perfect length to then transfer all the power of the machine through the pad and into the fibers. And obviously it also plays into, is this open cell or closed cell technology? And this happens to be closed cell. This one happens to be open. So the way that you can think about it is about the amount of the transfer of the power from the machine, the pads here. So imagine you put this up against your face, and then somebody, for the lack of a better word, punches you here. Are you going to feel it more or less with this one or this one? Well, obviously, if you put this up here because it's thicker and you get hit, this is going to be softer. It's got more protection, right? But what that means is the transfer of the power through the machine is going to be less going through the pad, through the foam, and then into the microfiber, which the microfiber itself is too long and it can't transfer it because it's so big. So what I did here is I have a long, really long stick, right? Now imagine you wanted to go into battle with really long one. It's just super duper long. You can't do anything. It's awkward. You wouldn't be able to lift it up, and if you put any pressure on it, it's going to break, right? That's sort of the same idea as this. Then with the pads that I was trying to work with and wanted to put my name on, and I was all excited, and it turns out after tons and tons of testing, just didn't work. And I would never put out something that I didn't believe in, and just proves it, because these were, I have hundreds of these that are not going to be used now. Now I have a small one, right? The small one. So if I go to battle, how can you do anything? It's too small, right? So in terms of the physics aspect or the engineering aspect of it, when it's that small, it's not effective, at least in my opinion. And if I'm translating what Todd was talking to me about, he does it way more elegant than I do. But then you have a medium size, which is, you know, like the perfect size. You know what I mean? Like it's stiff, it's strong, it's not too long, and it's not too short. So this is how I equate that. Now on to the Rubes polisher. There's something pretty cool going on here that I learned on the internet, and it was Kevin Brown who showed it to me, and my buddy David Saunders actually gave me the little piece I'm going to show you. So you take your, your hex tool here, hex wrench, and you pull off the backing plate that comes with the Rubes. Pull that off, put that down, and I'll zoom in, put the bolt down there. Now what I've done, and what they've shown me here, so I'll put it on this so you can see it because my glove is black, is there is a little washer that goes in the back of the backing plate. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you, if this was the original housing, right, it was completely against it, a little bit of friction, what it's going to do is, metaphorically here, it's going to pull it off a little bit. This is way too much, obviously, but pulling it off so that there's no friction. Now some people say that you could throw off the machine and things of that, that might happen, but I haven't seen that. But maybe you guys leave some comments in the video, and if you've seen any of those sort of issues. I haven't. I think it's great. What it's doing is it frees up a lot of the friction and gives you an extra little punch with the Rubes polisher. So thanks to Kevin Brown for that, and David Saunders for actually making this. So it's basically just a washer, and then the sides are shaved off just to kind of fit into this hole, and it just makes a spacer because this is a spacer. So pretty cool. All right, after all that, we're now ready to polish. Now I measured the paint with my Del Fesco Positector, and I have a link on my website. If you can't find it, just shoot me an email. But I measured it. It's anywhere from 4.5 to 5, which is green light to polish. Now I have a microfiber cutting pad, the right depth that I'm comfortable with on the Rubes polisher. The big thing about microfiber cutting pads, we talked about this before, is to keep the fibers sticking up as much as possible. You can use compressed air. You can use this little thing that I have. It's just a brush. It's nothing special. I don't even know. I've had this for 20 years probably, or 15 years. I keep it in my pocket, and I just come out here, and every pass or so, I'll get the fibers back up again. So what I'm going to do is I put a piece of tape down here. You can tape and go crazy as much as you want, but I'm going to use an example just to show you one little spot of how quick you can do a paint. I don't want to go so far as to call it paint restoration, but to clean the paint up as much as possible without going too intense. So you put your this happens to be my leveling fluid. Again, use whatever you're comfortable using. Spread it in. This pad was already primed, but in the future, after you prime it, you don't necessarily need to wipe it in with your finger. We're going to go like this, tap, 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 tap. You're going to move it to 2 or so, spread it in. All right, normally that motion is way too fast, but we're just spreading it in. Now I'm going to bump it up to about 5 or so, and then slow. Watch how slow my arm movements are. You're gonna work the product in. You're going north-south, north-south, east-west, east-west. Okay, after a few passes, you can either wipe down with a microfiber towel, do a 1 quick squirt of spray wax, either or is fine. And what you're going to see is a nicely leveled surface, and it's going to be a little bit hazy. Normally, in this particular car, it's actually looks way better than the way that it was designed to be, which was just slightly hazy so that you can come back with a foam pad. Remember, foam pad polish and microfiber for cutting. So that was one little section. That took me less than 1 minute to do this little area, and it looks 85, 90%. It's almost there. Remember, we talked about this a lot. That last 10% is what is massive in the detailing industry. So we'll just continue this before and after, because I know a lot of people are very shocked and excited about before and afters, but you guys can absolutely 110% do 50-50 shots all day long. They're not that complicated, again, depending on the type of material and paint. So next thing's up, use a little bit of polish, use a polishing pad, boom, quick, easy, and the car looks really, really good. So I'm excited. All right, next I switched pads to a foam pad because we're polishing, and I put a little jeweler's polish on the pad. Primed it, I put some spray wax on there, we're ready to go. Same sort of thing. Tap, 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 tap. You're gonna go put it on 2, spread it around. The goal is just to spread it around just a little bit. Again, you're using a little bit fast motions because you're not actually correcting anything, you're just spreading it around. Now we're going to start correcting the swirls that we put in, even though they're very, very minor. And in this particular paint, it almost wasn't any swirls whatsoever, with the leveling, which is a massive amount of advancement in the leveling or compounding technology. Pretty cool. So here we go. All right, the cool thing about polish is you can keep, specifically mine, and there's a couple others that give you a long polishing time, and it allows me to kind of manipulate the paint in the way that I want to, based on what the paint is giving to me. What's the paint doing? And I can push and pull, but it doesn't dry out. So in theory, you could just keep polishing, for a very long time, and I like that aspect of it. I like a extra sort of lubricated or wet polish. So anyways, you pull it off. Yikes, this looks amazing. This looks really, really good. So I'll pull the camera in and we'll do a quick 50-50 of it. And the point of the story is I wanted to, one, prove that you can do a 50-50 and pull the tape down and have it look great, which is awesome. But more importantly, what we did to the paint was extremely fast, very easy, but appropriate for what the customer wanted. So hopefully I give you an idea of some things to think about when you're detailing to make a good profit and be able to show the customer a really high quality car. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, larry@ammonyc.com. I will talk to you guys soon, and stay tuned next week. We're going to be washing the F40. Also super fun. I'm very excited. All right guys, I'll see you later.